At precisely 11:43 p.m. last night, every operational radio telescope on Earth simultaneously received a highly organized, complex transmission that lasted for exactly 60 seconds. It was not a chaotic signal, nor was it merely mathematical code. It was a deliberate message rendered in perfect idiomatic English. And what that message articulated has left world leaders desperately retreating to underground bunkers and NASA's most seasoned top scientists gravely questioning whether humanity has any future at all in the cosmos. The final spoken portion of the message began with 4 chilling words that still make my hands uncontrollably shake. Your time is ending. What I am about to share with you now is not based on mere speculation or unverified theory. It represents the meticulously documented last communication received from 3I Atlas before the object immediately ceased responding to any human attempt at contact forever. My name is Michio Kaku, and just 23 minutes after that terrifying transmission concluded, I received an urgent call from the highest, most restricted levels of government asking me to decode and interpret what may very well be humanity's definitive, final warning. For months, we have watched 3I Atlas evolve dramatically from a mysterious interstellar visitor into a palpable active threat. But this final message was not a conventional threat of attack. It was something profoundly worse. It was a verdict. The entity that spoke to us last night demonstrated an unnerving level of knowledge concerning human history, psychology, and future potential that no objective outside observer should possibly possess. It spoke about our entire species with the cold, detached precision of a seasoned scientist observing a colony of bacteria under a powerful microscope. Have you ever seriously wondered what your final decisive grade would be if an advanced ethical intelligence were tasked with evaluating humanity's core worthiness to continue existing and expand? The total transmission lasted exactly 60 seconds, but it was confirmed to contain nearly 17 hours worth of dense, compressed information embedded within data streams that our most powerful supercomputers are still violently struggling to fully decode. However, the distinct spoken portion was clear, deliberate, and chillingly addressed to humanity as a collective organism rather than to individual people. The key phrase was, "Your species has reached the terminus of its evaluation period. The results are disappointing." 3 demonstrably impossible elements characterize this initial communication. First, it demonstrated a complete, nuanced understanding of every major human language, culture, and belief system. Second, it contained detailed, verifiable records of human behavior dating back over 200,000 years. Third, it included precise projections of humanity's future that fundamentally assume we won't have one. This was not intended to be a conversation. It was a final damning report from an intelligence that had definitively finished studying us and reached its final unappealable conclusions. Let me read you exactly what 3I Atlas transmitted, because every human being needs to hear these specific words. You have been observed for 847 of your solar rotations. Your technological advancement exceeds your wisdom development by a factor that renders you unsuitable for cosmic integration. Your species demonstrates persistent, profound patterns of self-destruction, resource depletion, and violence toward your own kind. Most concerning is your inability to recognize that individual consciousness is an illusion. You remain fragmented, competitive, and tragically incapable of the unity required for galactic citizenship. Therefore, this experiment in guided evolution will be terminated. Your isolation will be permanent. Your technology will be regulated. Your expansion beyond this planetary system will be prevented. The message was not actively threatening immediate extinction. It was rather announcing a cosmic quarantine. Humanity has been coldly judged unfit for participation in galactic civilization. But the truly terrifying and unsettling part of the message was what came next. 3I Atlas explicitly described the precise technology it will use to enforce our cosmic imprisonment. Your electromagnetic spectrum will be monitored. Any signals directed beyond your solar system will be intercepted and neutralized. Your space-based assets will be managed to prevent expansion beyond acceptable parameters. Artificial intelligence development will be capped at levels that pose no threat to established galactic order. Genetic modifications that might accelerate wisdom development will be prevented. They are not going to destroy us. They are going to manage us like a volatile species in a cosmic zoo designed specifically to prevent us from ever becoming dangerous or disruptive to the wider galactic community. The immense technology required for such comprehensive, precise control strongly suggests that 3I Atlas represents merely the enforcement arm of a far larger civilization that monitors thousands of developing species across the expansive galaxy. I need to share with you what happened immediately after I finished the initial decoding of the core message. I sat entirely alone in my study for 4 long hours, staring blankly at the complex equations that described humanity's inherent limitations with cold mathematical precision. My wife finally found me there at dawn, and when she gently asked what was fundamentally wrong, I couldn't possibly explain to her that our entire striving species had just collectively received a monumental failing grade from intelligences we never even knew were watching. The message contains psychological profiles of human behavior that were demonstrably more accurate than anything our own social scientists have ever produced. They understand us better than we understand ourselves. My granddaughter innocently came into my study that same morning and asked, "Grandpa, why are the space people angry at us?" When I asked her how she knew they were angry, she replied, "Because they're not talking to us anymore." Even young children can intuitively sense that something fundamentally and permanently has changed. The universe just became an immeasurably lonelier place. The final portion of the explicit message contained detailed, damning documentation of humanity's failures as meticulously evaluated by galactic standards. In 847 observation cycles, your species has engaged in 14,283 armed conflicts. You have developed technologies capable of planetary sterilization while remaining terminally incapable of equitable resource distribution. Most damning is your persistent treatment of other conscious beings on your own planet. A species that systematically destroys its own ecosystem while possessing the comprehensive knowledge to preserve it demonstrates fundamental moral deficiency. But the evidence was not just statistical. 3I Atlas transmitted undeniable video records of human behavior spanning centuries. Wars, environmental destruction, systemic social inequality, all documented with the chilling detachment of scientists studying catastrophically failed specimens. They showed us ourselves through cold cosmic eyes, and the reflection was utterly devastating. Within hours of the message being received, every major government simultaneously activated something known only as the Final Disclosure Protocol. This is a highly classified, comprehensive system designed only for the moment when humanity's cosmic status becomes irreversibly and undeniably clear. World leaders who had spent decades actively hiding evidence of extraterrestrial observation suddenly faced the inescapable reality that the era of secrecy was ending, whether they wanted it to or not. There were immediate emergency sessions at the United Nations, closed-door briefings with top military leadership, and the urgent activation of deep underground facilities that most governments had desperately hoped would never be necessary. Because 3I Atlas's message made one thing absolutely terrifyingly clear. The cosmic community has been fully aware of human civilization for centuries, and they have finally decided we are simply too dangerous to allow unrestricted, chaotic development. The long-standing cover-up wasn't engineered to hide aliens from humans. It was orchestrated to hide from the galactic community precisely how primitive and fundamentally violent humanity truly is. The message chillingly revealed the true nature of those trans-medium objects we previously thought were manufacturing plants or weapon systems. They are, in fact, enforcement mechanisms precisely designed to implement humanity's cosmic quarantine. Monitoring stations have been positioned at intervals that ensure comprehensive observation of your technological development. Any attempt to exceed established parameters will result in intervention. But the single most chilling detail was their detailed description of similar operations around other failed species throughout the galaxy. We are not unique. Cosmic quarantine is apparently a standard routine procedure for civilizations that demonstrate high intelligence without commensurate wisdom, technology without corresponding ethics. Humanity just collectively joined a common category of species considered too dangerous for freedom, but too interesting for extinction. The message ended with something that felt like a trace of cosmic pity. Your individual specimens show remarkable potential. Your collective behavior remains chaotic and destructive. Perhaps future generations will develop the wisdom their predecessors lacked. They are not condemning every single human being. They are condemning human civilization as a failed experiment in conscious collective evolution. My granddaughter asked me yesterday, will the space people give us another chance if we're nicer to each other? How does one possibly explain to a 7-year-old that her generation inherits a universe where humanity is universally considered a threat? The dense mathematical projections within the message suggest they will maintain this quarantine for a minimum of 10,000 years, long enough for human civilization to either evolve genuine collective wisdom or tragically destroy itself trying to escape. Either way, our autonomous expansion into space is definitively over. But the final 60 seconds of the transmission contains something utterly unexpected. Not a judgment, but a strange offer. Individual consciousness capable of transcending species limitations will be provided opportunity for advancement beyond planetary restrictions. The path remains available for those who achieve genuine wisdom. They are offering an individual escape from humanity's new cosmic prison, not for our fragile bodies, but for our consciousness. For minds that can evolve far beyond the limits of human limitations. The technology clearly exists to transfer consciousness beyond biological limitations, beyond planetary boundaries, and entirely beyond the strict quarantine that will now confine human civilization. But this offer is made only for individuals who successfully demonstrate a level of profound wisdom that their species as a whole has failed to achieve. The message described consciousness not as a human property, but as a universal property that exists independently of biological brains. What we narrowly call individual identity is simply a temporary focus of a much larger cosmic awareness. Advanced civilizations have already learned how to smoothly transfer consciousness between vastly different substrates, different dimensions, and entirely different forms of existence. Death, therefore, is not the end of awareness. It is a graduation from primitive biological limitations to a higher cosmic consciousness, but only for minds that have successfully evolved beyond primitive concepts of separation and competition. They are offering a form of immortality, but only to humans who can effectively transcend humanity itself. The rest of our species will remain tragically trapped in biological forms on a permanently quarantined planet, slowly forgetting that the stars were ever truly within our grasp. For centuries, we naively imagined that contact with extraterrestrial intelligence would involve diplomatic negotiation between equals, mutual exchange of knowledge, and a warm welcome. But the message from 3i Atlas reveals a vastly different universe, one where intelligence is profoundly hierarchical, where species are evaluated like students taking rigorous cosmic exams, and where failure carries permanent, life-altering consequences. We simply assumed the universe would welcome us as bold explorers. Instead, we have been coldly identified as a potential threat that requires immediate containment. Perhaps this is the harsh reality facing every rapidly developing civilization. Prove your wisdom or face eternal isolation. And perhaps humanity's failure was tragically inevitable. Perhaps very few species ever successfully pass the stringent test of balancing immense intelligence with corresponding ethics. Based on 3i Atlas's final devastating message, here is humanity's confirmed cosmic status. We are now officially a managed species under permanent galactic supervision. Our technology will be systematically capped at levels that pose no threat to other civilizations. Our expansion beyond Earth will be actively and swiftly prevented. Our communications directed beyond the solar system will be monitored and controlled. Individual humans who achieve genuine wisdom may be offered transcendence to cosmic consciousness, but human civilization, as we know it, has collectively reached the end of its evolutionary potential. The stars are no longer our ultimate destination. They are our prison guards. And the saddest part of all is this: we decisively earned this verdict through our own collective choices, our own fundamental failures, and our own profound inability to evolve beyond primitive patterns of behavior. The quarantine begins immediately, but the offer of individual transcendence remains available for any human capable of evolving beyond species limitations. This isn't about technology or intelligence anymore. It is about wisdom, about compassion, about the genuine ability to see beyond the individual ego to universal consciousness. Document your dreams, your moments of profound cosmic awareness, your experiences of unity with something infinitely larger than individual identity, because those experiences may very well be preparation for a necessary consciousness evolution. Subscribe to follow humanity's turbulent transition from failed civilization to managed species, because what happens next will determine whether individual humans can transcend the limitations that doomed our collective future. And remember the final verdict. The universe just gave us a final report card. We failed as a species, but individuals still hold the final slim opportunity to graduate. The question is, are you wise enough to transcend humanity itself? This entire analysis represents an interpretation of theoretical communication scenarios and should not be considered factual reporting of extraterrestrial contact. But sometimes, as scientists, we must rigorously explore possibilities that deeply challenge our core assumptions about humanity's cosmic significance and future potential. What do you think humanity's final verdict means for our future? Can individuals transcend species limitations?